It's attorney Ryan Pacyga from ArrestedMN.com, and today I've got an update for you on a change in the law in Minnesota on domestic assault cases. So here's why it's important. Domestic assault has more what are called collateral consequences or other bad things that can happen if you have a domestic assault conviction than a regular assault case, okay? So domestic assaults can be worse in situations, even if it's the same level of assault, such as a slap, a punch, a broken bone, whatever like that. Okay. And so one of the things that people want to avoid domestic assaults for is like if you have a domestic assault conviction for harm to someone, you could be banned lifetime from possessing or owning a firearm or ammunition, or precluded sometimes from working some places, getting certain licenses, living in certain places, and a whole bunch of other things. So domestic assault is usually regarded as worse than regular assault for many reasons. Okay. So in order to determine whether something's a domestic assault or regular assault, the courts look to the definitions of what means a domestic relationship. And that's things, for example, like people who are related by blood or marriage, okay? People who have been married before I just said that, sorry. People who lived under the same roof together, people who were in a romantic or sexual relationship, and a bunch of other things, okay? So, for example, if I slap a buddy of mine and he thinks that's an assault, I can get charged with an assault. But if it's a wife or something, then I could be charged with domestic assault, and domestic gets worse. Okay, so you get that now. So here's the thing. So the Minnesota Supreme Court came out with a case today, and one of the things they were asked to decide in this case is whether, when the law says a family or household member, if that only means someone who's a current family or household member, or someone who's been a former significant romantic or sexual relationship. Okay? And so the issue there is that if someone says, well, wait a minute, we used to be dating or boyfriend and girlfriend, or, be in a sexual relationship, but that was a while ago. And if I just assaulted that person now, I shouldn't be charged with domestic assault. I should only be charged with regular assault, which again is more often than not, kind of better than domestic assault. Okay. And that's a case the Supreme Court had to decide today. And although if you read the law, people would think it means only a current romantic or sexual relationship, the Supreme Court said no. The intent of that law basically is to protect people in domestic relationships from this. And they looked at some legislative history when the lawmakers were talking about these laws. And the Supreme Court today ruled that it could mean not only a current but also a former significant romantic or sexual relationship. And this is where things get a little more hard to figure out, because they have like this 4 or 5 factor test that has to be proved. If you determine that there used to be a significant romantic or sexual relationship, then the next part of the question becomes, under these factors, does this count or not? Okay, so what they're looking at is, when they want to determine whether this is people involved in a significant romantic or sexual relationship, the length of the relationship is one thing they're going to look at now. The type of relationship, the frequency of the interactions between the two people, and if the relationship was ended, the length of time since the relationship ended. So in this case that they just decided today, and they determined this is a domestic, even though the relationship was over, this is just one example, the court said that this is going to count as a domestic, and the reason is that this, in terms of the length of the time of the relationship, the people met in 2020. The relationship started around June or July of 2020, and it ended around November of 2021. So about 18 months is how long their relationship went on. That's the first factor. Second, the type of the relationship. And they said plainly those two people had a romantic and sexual non-exclusive relationship, which must have meant they were having sex together, but they weren't exclusive. They could do that with other people as well. But their lives were intertwined for a period of time, is what the case said. And so that they communicated with each other's mother and friends and spent time with their children together and things like that. Third, they looked at the frequency of interactions between the parties, and they both interacted through both in-person interactions and digital communications, which would be like texting and all of that. This guy would visit this female's apartment several evenings throughout the week when they were going out together. And because the relationship had terminated, they last looked at how long it was since the relationship terminated between that time and the alleged assault. And in that case, their relationship terminated the first weeks in November of 2021, and there was only days afterward that this assault had occurred. So the court said, given the length of the relationship, the fact that it was indeed a romantic and sexual one, the fact that they had frequent communications with one another, and the relationship's recent termination from when the assault occurred, the Minnesota Supreme Court concluded that the prosecution had enough evidence to support the court's finding that they were in a significant romantic or sexual relationship as required under the law. So the bottom line again is, when you would read the law, you would kind of think it had to be a current romantic or sexual relationship, but that's not what the Supreme Court said. They said, no, the purpose of this is to protect these sort of things. And looking at the lawmakers when they were deliberating or debating about some of these things and talking about some of these things while they're dealing with these laws, they say they're going to go back in time and say it could be a past relationship, but each court has to look at those 4 factors that I just discussed. So that's a little bit of a changer, and what it does is exposes more people to the risk of being charged for a domestic assault as opposed to a regular assault if it happened sometime after the relationship was done. If you've got any questions about Minnesota criminal law, you can always reach out to me. I'm attorney Ryan Pacyga, and you can find me at arrestedmn.com.